I could have been a narcissist. I'm going to tell you about it. I was raised by a narcissist who I modeled much of my behavior after because I admired him and because I look like him. I mean, we have a very similar face, body type. We weigh the same amount. He's a little taller than me, but I mean, we have the same musculature. I'm working on it. We're getting there. I'm not as bulky as he am. He's had a lot more time socialized as a man, and I was socialized in a way where I wasn't really allowed to get bulky. But anyway, we're past that now. That all being said, I was never taught to apologize in my house. My angel of a mother never owed anybody apologies. Not saying literally never, but if she did, she actually would apologize. It was just very rare. And she was very busy and teaching and being a full time employed mom. And I was one of the parentified older kids, but I'm not. So I'm not trying to say it was anybody's direct fault. I don't even think the other guy even knows he's narcissistic, because usually people don't. And I can tell you that from experience because I didn't either. And it wasn't till I think I was a later teen when I started to realize that the way I apologized for conflicts was kind of fucked up. So I recognize, and I don't know why, I'll never forget this particular instance. I'd gotten in a fight with my older sister, and I don't remember as much as I should. I have a really good memory. I don't remember as much as I should from my adolescence, from before that guy left and went to war, my sophomore year. But before that, things were pretty chaotic, and I don't have a lot of access to the records, I should say. And so I can't give you all the details specifically, but I was kind of a nasty sibling. I was known for being cranky and explosive and reactive about stuff. And turns out it's because I was an abused child and I was responding to that environment. But not that that's my sibling's fault. I got into a fight with my older sister, and I have 6 brothers and sisters, and I'm third. She was my best friend most of my life. We're not as close as we used to be, but I still love her. And we just gone different ways. Totally fine. And I didn't mean to hurt her feelings, make her cry, whatever it was. So I made her a hot chocolate, and I brought it to her as an apology. I remember that was the thought. I'm going to make amends for this shitty thing that I did by giving her a gift. Sounding familiar to anybody? Did I apologize? No. Did I acknowledge my part in it? No. Did she? No, but I don't remember what. We were teenagers. I don't know. I was probably 14. I don't remember. And that stuck out to me. That was the beginning, I think, of the learning how to be different. But what I remember the clearest as far as me deciding not to be a narcissist, and I mean it was a decision I made because my dad was never diagnosed by a medical professional, but my mom did the work. The internet was new. It was 2002. He'd gone off to war. She finally had some fucking time on her hands, and found a blog, figured his shit out, and it helped a lot. It didn't fix everything, but it helped a lot. Him acknowledging that he had stuff going on that made him the problem. And he was a lot kinder to my mom for that. I'll give him credit for that. But her this was the impetus of me studying behavioral and mental health and science, which I've been studying for the last, over 20 years now. So I would say I've definitely put in the time and the work. I worked in behavioral science and mental and special education, mental health and special education. I'm the real deal. But I started recognizing in myself an inability to apologize. I couldn't just say sorry. And I was pretty young. it was before I got married, and I got married at 23, so to the first one. That's another story for another time. I just remember getting in a fight with my dad that I didn't understand while we were doing fucking yard work, which always happened when yard work happened. There were specific things: camping, packing for camping, yard work, any kind of major project, you'd always get fucking yelled at. But he accused me of being whiny or not wanting to be there. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to help. I was only living with them temporarily because I'd already done a couple of years of college and moved home for reasons. And I'm a full adult, and I'm just like, I don't like working on the yard with you. Anyway, we have this fight. I didn't like it, and I didn't understand what went wrong. And I approached my dad later, and I decided ahead of time that I was going to say I'm sorry, because it must have been my fault. And I went up to him. He was sitting somewhere in the backyard, cooling off, I guess. And I said, I'm sorry. And it made me cry. It made me cry. Right here is where I felt it. I'm sorry burned right here and wouldn't come out until I made it. And when it came out, it unblocked this like cry fest. It wasn't heavy. It was just like I had to blubber my way through it. I was very emotional about it. And he never said sorry back. But that's besides the point, because it wasn't about him at that point. It was about me. And I had been participating in that nasty negativity. And I took ownership of my behavior. I took accountability for it. And I changed. And after that, I got really good at it. And to this day, I am really goddamn good at saying I'm sorry. You can ask. I taught for 20 years. You can ask the teenagers. Now adults, don't go looking for teenagers. The kids who I taught over the last 20 years, who are now adults. And you can ask them if I ever apologize. And I will say I'm fucking proud of myself for how much work I put into my ability to apologize, to the point where I made it part of my teaching practice. I taught kids how to apologize. And you know you're good at it when you can teach 8th graders how to apologize, and it sticks. So I will say I'm really proud of myself for not being a narcissist. But I recognize it in myself. I do not let my explosive rage take control of me. That's real. If you know anything about the type of brain that I have, and maybe you will as we go, maybe you share a similar brain, sometimes you get explosive rages. And you scream at your dogs. Good thing I never had kids. I knew I wasn't cut out for kids. I knew that I was poisoned for kids forever in my home. At work, I knew they'd be fine. It's just when I'm tired and don't have resources, and I just need to have a place to be calm. And even then, my students did see me get angry with them, but I was able to I'd say 99.9% of the time keep it under wraps. I can think of a couple times when I did need to apologize, and I did when I did. So, but my poor puppies, who are my ride or dies, have always been the catchers of that emotional rage, to the point where she's gone now, but my little Kimber girl was the smartest, most anxious, beautiful little puppy. And I learned how to control my behavior better because I saw that she was afraid of me one time. So I knew I had to get that shit under wraps. And I've had to do a lot of this myself because I haven't had the resources to get therapy. I've never been... The teaching jobs I've worked at, when I was a paraprofessional, I made about $10 an hour. And I did that for most of a decade. And that was in the 2010s, in 2005 to 2015-ish. And then when I got my degree in history and started teaching full time, the first job I got was 30 grand teaching at a treatment center. I meant it when I said I've worked in mental health. I worked very closely with the therapist, and we were required to go to group therapy, so I'm exposed. But anyway, worked there for 2 years, made 30 grand a year. And that was in 2013 is when I started there. And worked in a charter school where I capped out at 37, but I started at $35,000 a year, and I worked there for 4 years. I left there in 2019, making $37,000 a year, and I ended my education career working for a public school, a public junior high, and I worked there for 4 years, started in the 60s, upper 50s, which was a nice increase in, was it 40s? No, I think it was 50 something. I'll have to go look. And ended, if I had been able to finish my school year, which that's another story for another day, but my principal forced me out because he was an abuser, because I was a really good union rep. And I've got the receipts to prove it. Anyway, which is why HR ended up paying me for 2 full months of leave when he tried to suspend me. But that's a different story for another time. Anyway, capped out at about 70K. 73,000, I think, was my salary for that last year. And that was 2024 in Utah. So that was my salary in 2023 to 24 in Utah. Before then, I made significantly less because we had a pretty good jump at that year. I was in like the mid 60s, and we jumped up quite a bit. And I didn't get all of it, which is a bummer. But I also left education entirely, and that's not as much of a bummer. But we're getting back into the educating. We're just staying out of the fucking bureaucracy. And never... No one was ever better than me at working with the shitty kids. No one ever had better behavior management of the rough kids. I'm being specific because there were classes that had better behavior management as far as like, yeah, they got things done and now they didn't interrupt as much and blah, 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 blah. But no one had better rapport. And I love you shitty kids. And I know you... If any of them are watching, I know that they know that I love them because I was a shitty kid. And the thing is about kids who are difficult is that it's never about you as the adult in the room. It's always, always, always about what they're dealing with. And a lot of what they're dealing with is adults like you being shitty to them. And they are just reacting to you. So all I had to do was not be shitty back. All of a sudden, they were my ride or dies. My favorite kids, my best kids. You're all my favorites, though. You know you are, right? My heart was built for favorites. The shelf in my heart that holds my favorites is vast and ever expanding. Anyway. So I'm a narcissist. By raising, but I chose to change my stripes. And I use what I learn to help others who've had maybe gotten a shitty hand in life, because I understand them, and I understand that their behavior is not everything that they are. And that behavior is a symptom of what's going on the inside. And as a behavioral scientist, which I am, I see the soul of a person before I ever see their name. And I'm a narcissist. Or I could have been. I probably got that BPD, haven't been diagnosed yet, but I do have bipolar disorder. I am autistic. I am ADD, AUDHD, the combo strike. I've got just about anything you can diagnose under the sun. I don't have OCD. I don't think I'm so sorry about that one, you guys. But dissociative identity, that's me. I got a lot of shit going on up here. And do you know what that makes me? Really good at understanding other people. So I don't mind it. I don't mind it much at all, really. It's taken a lot of years to get to where I am. Part of me not wanting to be a narcissist was I just got rid of all of the parts of me that reminded me of my dad. And then I was on estrogen for a really long time, which is a whole nother story, but I didn't want to become a monster that I saw somebody else in my life being. I made a choice when I was about 15 that I didn't want to turn out like him. And that choice has been the guiding star of the vast majority of my decisions going forward ever since. I'm 38 now. So I know what it's like to change. And I know how hard accountability hurts. It hurts. And when you know you've caused harm to someone you love, and you run hiding from it because it makes you feel like this, don't. Sitting with the pain and the discomfort of taking account of the harm you and every human on this planet will eventually and must cause, because we are finite creatures in an infinite universe. We're gonna fuck shit up. And if you can just accept that that's just a part of being alive, you can learn. Do you know what that pain really is? Excavation. You're digging a deeper well. And do you know what that well fills up with when you're done? Actually, I'll be honest, it stays full. It's groundwater. That's how wells work, you know. When you cut through that water table, so to speak, what flows out is love. Okay? So when I say part of my intention for this page is to help people get better, I include the narcissists and the sociopaths and the psychopaths and the borderlines and the multiple personalities and the schizophrenics. I've got most of that in me, and if it isn't in me, it's in my blood and it's in my family. My love is extended especially to you, because I know how hard it is to dig that deep when you aren't the one who poured cement in that well in the first place. Sometimes we need a jackhammer, and that really fucking hurts, jackhammering in your chest. Anyway, love you, boos. See you next time.